everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday Board Game Live. I'm Seppy, Chief Game Designer for Fight in a Box, and today's guest, a reoccurring guest. I had not realized how many times. This is your 10th time on the live, Jared?
And there was and I realized when I was going through my own notes, the first time you had me on, we scheduled it wrong, so we did it twice. We actually were like, why not? We did it. Remember we did it during the day, and then we went back and did it at night as well. So we actually did two hours that day.
Yeah, that was super fun.
That was really fun. Actually, I was laughing because the day that you had me on when Mondo had to bail, I wasn't watching that day. So the other day I went online and I got to watch the 10 minutes leading up to it. And I'm like, oh, that's very fun. Because first of all, he was obviously, I don't know, he was having a bad day, whatever was going on in his life. And so it was the energy was getting lower and lower to, I got to go. And then it's like, I wonder what we'll do next. I'm going to eat up the rest of the hour. I wonder if Jared's online. Click, click, click. Jared's online.
Well, Jared, you are infamous for being able to jump into any topic and just start talking about it.
What are we talking about today? No, that's it is a fun thing. I mean, but that's the art of conversation, right? It's
yeah. Well, someday I will learn some skill that will be useful, but until then, I'll be happy to be.
Are we drinking on camera now?
Yes, this is my and Magic the Gathering staff, like look at how much I've used this thing.
This is pineapple Fanta, which I add caffeine to every morning.
Oh, do like me some Fanta.
I thought you'd like the giant bottle of liquid caffeine I bought that you can add to anything. So it's this $30 jug of liquid caffeine, and 5 milliliters makes this as caffeinated as a Dr. Pepper.
So do you like teaspoon? Do you take eyedroppers? Like, what are you doing?
So I've got a little syringe that I pull out.
No,
this jug. There's a little syringe, and then I put it. It came with a little vial, so I have the vial already cold and thing. And then what I end up doing is in the morning I open up the thing, and then I feel like I'm Dr. Jekyll. I'm like going like this, and I'm pouring it in, and I'm like turning it upside down, and I'm like, yes, because
that's somebody. That's somebody who knows exactly what they want in the morning. And I myself absolutely love cold caffeine in the morning. I'm not a hot caffeine.
I don't do hot caffeine, and I can't do caramel color and the phosphates for my kidneys. So I need something that is I need caffeine that is liquid that I can drink as needed. And so it's called New Caffeine, NU caffeine. This is jug. It's this jug. It was literally like I did the math. It is 198 doses if I do it in 5 minutes.
Well, Uga Chaka is right. We have to get to it.
Excuse me. This is work. This is work.
Jared's wearing big blue today. That's how we know it's serious about work. All right. Everybody.
My eyes.
Again, everybody. I'm Seppy, Chief Game Designer for Fight in a Box Games and Head of Marketing for Floodgate Games. This is Jared, the Board Game Dragon. And today we're talking about game design from motivation to method. The transition from your idea to how you start dissecting and putting that idea together is sort of a real good way to create momentum in your creative project and to have sustainability while having multiple creative projects. Like Jared, you're a prolific idea and content person. Would you say is that true or not so much?
Well, I mean, I definitely juggle a lot of projects, and I think it's fun because when you do what I do, it's very weird. I have some friends that I would consider as fans. They're really supporters, and these are people like in real life friends. And I'll call them. Somebody will call me up and go, "So Jared, what's going on with that project?" And they go, "Oh yeah, that one's on the back burner, or I'm not doing that one, or that one fell out." And they're like, "No," and I'm like, no, it's okay. And like, I'm juggling 20 projects so that like 5 of them can fall off. 5 of them. One of the first things we learned in choreography class was abundance, scooped from abundance leaves abundance. And that is, if you have a lot of ideas and you throw away a lot of ideas, you're left with a lot of ideas. I'm very much not a single idea, single project, single vision person. I think we all have more than one epic idea in our lives.
I totally agree with that, though my methodology is I thought this would be an interesting discussion because I am like, this idea is enough. Let us feast.
And what's interesting is that, I know I was really excited about today's topic because I know we're going to get to game design as game design, but like my first thing about game design is the love of the game, not the love of the product. And I own a book publishing company, and my father, when he retired, bought a bed and breakfast, and he later wrote a book called Why on Earth Would Anybody Want to Be an Innkeeper? How to Research, Buy, Run, and Eventually Sell the Inn of Your Dreams. And what's interesting about the book, and I love about it, is the comparison of staying at a bed and breakfast and running a bed and breakfast. Because when you run the bed and breakfast, you're making the bed and you're making the breakfast. And this idea of game design as a small business owner, game design as running something, hitting something to market, game design as the success of your value is based on the success of the game, is antithetical to the artistic process of the success of the game. Is I made a game and it's fun and we play it, not it was successful in the marketing thing and I sold a bunch of copies. Those are way two different things, because then you have to become a business expert versus somebody who just focuses on the love of game design. The same with if you're a musician. You could be a really great musician and never tour, never cut an album. We cut an album, but never be successful. But you're a successful musician because you play good music and you like it.
We can off-road to this topic, but I like the Copernicus assumption, and I like to remind people that the most popular game, the most financially successful game, might not be the best game or the best game for them to be. Like, best is very subjective, so forth, and like people sell a bazillion copies of Farkle, right? Like
I love Farkle. And why would anybody buy it? It's 5 dice and a notepad.
It's 5 dice and a notepad, right? Like it's
6 dice and a notepad.
But the idea for like, if that's your jumping in point or that's your end point, like there's a reason that people live all the way from New York to California as people, and they call it settling for a reason or colonizing. Like, they're like, this is good enough for me. I think, Buffalo is just a great choice. You're like, let's live near Niagara. And that's far enough to me. I know there's a California, but whatever.
A friend of my brother's, when my brother was on tour a lot, a friend of my brother's who was also a comic book author, when they went to Vegas, had such a great time in Vegas because he didn't gamble and he liked to eat, that he moved to Vegas for the buffets, back when buffets were a big deal. And another friend of mine who's a professional writer could live anywhere. He could live anywhere. So he literally went, and he was a librarian by training. So he literally went and researched where his money was worth the most. And he moved to rural Maine so that his money was worth the most amount of money. Now, those are really interesting strategies, right? Well, the game design thing in this, but it really is one of those things about where you measure success as an artist versus where you measure success as a business person. And I like to pull the rug out really early in the conversation so that people stop trying to run towards a destination that will not make them happy and run to failure. Why do we run to failure?
I don't like to make assumptions for people. Like, I like them to understand the real choices they are making. They have an idea that this is the goal, but they don't have any idea what the trade-offs are going to be to make this your life. Like, I've been doing this. Yeah.
But statistically, you're running for failure. Most small businesses, not even whether how good you are, most small businesses fail, right?
Yeah.
Most people need a lot of money before they get started. Most people, so when they start the project on the false premise that really I'm not a game designer, I'm building a business around my game design passion. Whoa, those are two different things. So let's focus on the game design passion, and maybe you'll get lucky. But if you don't, you can still have a great time doing this and have a meaningful part of that.
All right. I love that as a point. Whatever you're going to do in and around gaming, make sure that your love for it is still present, right?
Oh, yes.
The journey is the entire reward for doing this, right? It is not like, and that's any game, including like if you're going to play the Powerball, like any game, it is about the journey, like the dreaming, the feeling about it.
That's a really good point. Buying a Powerball ticket 5 minutes before the draw is really stupid. You need to buy a Powerball ticket like the moment they're up for sale, so you can dream for a week, because that's where the win is. Because statistically, you're going to lose. So let's enjoy the week of dreaming. And I think
the week of dreaming is great. Like for me, I didn't even need to like get one. I just like texted my ex. I'm like, hey. Please win because I want to say I smashed with the billionaire. Like,
see, I'm. And what I really, by the way, so here's a really interesting observation that I think holds true with our entire situation as we talk about game design and fun and all these things. You know, when it's up to $1 billion, we are all buying tickets. But tell me that 100 million wouldn't change your life. Tell me that 5 million wouldn't change your life. Like, so why are we're so greedy? They will only dream, will only buy the ticket. Will only, what has happened to our threshold?
I think that's a simplified answer. I think like the big, it's an opportunity to join in on a moment where everybody is dreaming big.
But then again, they say the lottery is a tax for people that are bad at math.
Right.
and what's funny about that is, I think all of these things, when we talk about these really strange little observations,
but it's a game. Like we're talking about this specific thing, and it is the mindset, like a game that you're designed to lose. Because all right, so this is where I was jumping. Like this is why you and I have terrible conversations or great conversation, depending on what it is. You gave this idea out there, and I'm like, my brain immediately associates it with, you're like, hey, only 1 out of 3 small businesses succeed. So you're at a 66% chance of failure. And the reason that entrepreneurs do it again and again is because they need that many attempts before any business will be moderately successful. The best version of this, of course, is like VC, like venture capital, how that ends up working. And we'll talk a little bit about that too.
But I don't want to go in that area at all. I want to talk about I don't want to talk about
VC is pure math, right? At a certain level, when you gamify to a macro level enough, then you are just doing math. And speaking to the opposite way, when you are playing a game knowing you're going to lose, like slots or the Powerball or whatever you want to talk about in that area, then it's still the experience. You are actually paying for this hope, this dream, this week of teasing your exes, like do whatever you want to do.
I'll never talk to you again if I win this lottery. And it's interesting though that you bring that up, because what we run into is part of it's cognitive dissonance, right? Part of it is, in a world where we lose, we try to make the best out of things if we know what we're doing. Part of it though, as a game designer, is to realize that if it is all about winning, then and it's not about the destination, then it really is just a matter of like an arm wrestling or a coin flip or whatever. It's not about that 1 second at the end. It's everything that leads up to it that makes it so special. And I think the reason I started the way I started in this conversation is that so many people think that game design is about, the win is the product. and the product is irrelevant here. The product is the process. The product is the process. And I'm not even talking about I'm going to ask one, and going back one last thing. You are a full-time game entrepreneur, but you're not a full-time game designer. Your 40 hours a week is not, or 80 hours, 120 hours. Your hours a week.
Oh my God, I would kill for a 40-hour week, Jared. But people have to line up to
people dream that the job is just to sit there and just play, test, and design the whole time. And that doesn't exist. That's a fallacy. No, even at the big companies, everybody's got a percentage of what they do. So game design is only from a job perspective. Game design from an industry perspective is only a portion of the job. So let's just focus in on that for now. Let's just focus in on what it is to be a game designer, what it is to make a game.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's nothing wrong with making a crappy, derivative, hokey, stupid game if it's fun. I'm going to say that right there. I love it. And I want to real fast. Somebody was talking about I was watching a video and they had the list of all the worst rated games on Board Game Geek. And the third worst rated game on Board Game Geek was Candyland. And it was a rant about how bad Candyland is. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Candyland does exactly what it's supposed to do with the exact age range of what it's supposed to do it with. Candyland is a brilliant game. And, I could go through all the reasons why Candyland is great, not necessarily for us. That would be a mistake, but I'm not going to say Candyland is crap. Now, there are much better games. We've advanced as a society, but go on.
This is important. We're going to go off-roading with this topic. Understanding as you grow as a game designer and what you do, that this psychological underpinning is there. All right. When people do a thing and it gives them a much emotional satisfaction, that is great. But if the thing changes, then they think, well, let's just have more of the thing and then I'll get back to that feeling. Instead of understanding that their feelings are allowed to change. This happens, obviously, there's a lot of metaphors in and around chasing the dragon, but in Gary Ray's favorite local game store book, a game, just like your dad's book, this one is about how to open a game store and get to a middle income, right? That is and he talks about in the 5 to 7 year range, there will be a point that you can no longer be behind the counter. What used to fuel you in the first 2 years, which is interacting with customers and giving them selling them joy and all this kinds of stuff. Eventually you will probably have to move on from that. And people don't understand the thing like Candyland or working the counter. They feel like they've been betrayed by the thing. The thing is terrible. When I was young, I played the Candyland. I just didn't know how terrible it was. And I wasn't no.
So it's funny you say that. And I have to be careful about how I tell the story because I don't want to.
Yes, be careful.
Other than my brother. So I was seeing my brother the other day, and we were talking when my brother was visiting. We were talking about all the really big jerks that are in the comic book industry. And people at my brother has this thing where he'll sign anything, and someone had put up a sign that was limit to 3, and he's like, take that sign down. I have no limits, and he's really mad about that. And he was telling me about all the people he knows who are really jerks at signings. And he laughed at it. He goes, these are our customers. I don't know how they could do that. But then everyone was telling stories about jerks in the industry. But then my brother said that when he was a kid, there's a very famous story when he was a kid, he met somebody in the industry before my brother even knew he wanted to be a comic book artist, who really was so good to him and so motivational for him and so nice to him that it changed his outlook on everything. And I said, so as an adult, as somebody, whatever, what's your relationship with him now that you're in the industry? And he goes, oh, I avoid him. I go, I don't want to undo it. I don't want to accidentally find out he's a jerk. And I love the idea that you don't want to, but it's a very serious thing. And I'll go one other that my brother told me about when he was working at Marvel. And I said to him, what is he getting? Marvel, Disney, Star Wars? I said, if you ever thought about working on Star Wars? And his response to me was no, 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 no. I would never. I'm and his son turned to me and said, we are members of that audience. Like they don't want to ruin it for them. They don't want to be on that side of it. And I think that when you are doing game design, you are crossing into an area where you could literally ruin your own experience. Those of us who have done any level of game design, when we look at any game,
let's talk about where that line is. I think playtesting, doing design, I think helping volunteer people in their booths, like being a blind tester, any of that stuff, I think that would enhance all of your appreciation for games. But the line is, as soon as you try to monetize that, you are running the risk of
you're depending it. You're depending on it. Yeah. You're prostituting it is really what you're doing. And there's a possibility that you become a pimp of your own game. And then all of a sudden you don't love it anymore because you realize that with all the money you spent, all the time and effort you spent trying to sell this game, you could be selling anything. And that's what for me is very difficult as an artist is that, how much is this worth? It's how much I can sell it for. And I'm a really good salesperson, so I can sell anything for anything. And so the idea is, why should I be selling my product? And I think there's a real privilege to that. I mean, when people talk about trying to earn a living as a small business owner, I will say that being a small business owner and selling your wares is a double privilege. You work for yourself and you've decided you're going to sell this thing versus selling something else. And it has to be, I'm the one who has to make it for me to sell it. That's really like, there's hubris. But I want to go back to something else though. To be on topic, very specifically.
Before you do that, just 1 second. Like your relationship with capitalism is something that you're going to end up having to run into. Anytime when you're like, I quote unquote am worth more, you're like, are you worth like that? What is that 2-hour commute? What is that money that you're spending on car insurance? What is that like? I don't think people. I think when we get to the dollar and cents level, they don't actually understand the dollar and cents of their choices, for example.
Well, but going back to the game design aspect of it, not just the mirror of capitalism, which I think is a very fun thing to talk about, because so many of the people we know who are in this area are death to capitalism, except I want to run my own business, and I'm like, wait, excuse me, like the dream is that Walmart picks you up, right? The dream is that but
I know I've had this discussion with somebody who's working on a project, and I'm like, you cannot say that you hate money and then ask somebody to buy something. But that is inherently at odds. You have to pick a lane.
Yeah, I want to go back to this the game designer aspect of it. So when you and I are walking through, a show, and you see a new board game, tell me you're not looking at the material costs. Tell me that the first thing that pops into your mind is, oh, they made that decision. Those pieces are cardboard. Those pieces are plastic. I wonder how they all fit in the box. Like the reality of it is that we see the logistics behind what we're building and not just what we're building. And the freedom of not thinking about it from a product perspective is that you get to build something that is overblown and ginormous and custom and say, this is a really good game and maybe only 4 copies of it will ever exist. And maybe we'll simplify it and turn it into a product and maybe we won't, but we don't have to worry about its marketability or its, what the margins are and the shipping. We don't have to worry any of that. We're only worried about making an epic game.
All right. So your point is, of course, valid, but you like to give really insightful, interesting points and then step on them with other insightful points. And so let's go to the previous one, which I think is more interesting for the topic of motivation to methodology, which is whenever you do an activity, your perception of that activity and the environment that spawns it will fundamentally change. Okay? So there's a famous guy who was a comedy writer for one of the late night shows who ended up like his hobby ended up being like finding old recordings about like commercials and slogans that people used to do whole orchestras and musicals around selling products. And he became a revivalist about this. but the problem was because he had done 40 years of comedy and no longer could appreciate comedy as an experience. He would look at something and go, that's really funny. Right? It would never give him the joy or the giggles like when he discovered that there was an entire opera written about this flavor of vacuum cleaner, right? See, that giggle, as you talk about walking, and you talk about like walking around the convention, I don't see it's so hard for me to see the products as the kind of thing, like I'd be wide-eyed and like once upon a time, like when I went VIG to Gen Con, I was looking for the new thing and like whatever and seeing like whatever. And I don't even see that anymore. All I see is that my friend's booth? Is that see, I don't even see the products anymore.
I look at the people in the booths and I go, they don't got it. They don't got it. They don't got it. Maybe they'll get lucky because you can see the ones that don't know what business is. And you're like, oh yeah, they're someone just lost their house. But
I'm not judgy like you, for the record.
I am so judgy because I ask people why they're here, and this isn't just in gaming. I go like, what are you doing here? And they're like, they'll tell you some story, and it makes no sense. And I mean, you spent a lot of money to come here, and we could have you could have divvied that money up across anyway. But one of the things that I think is funny about what you're saying is that sense of our personal evolutions is really important. That we do evolve, especially, and comedy is a great example of that, by the way, because what you think is funny changes. And Saturday Night Live is one of my favorite things because people are like, oh, it's not funny anymore. No, it's not funny to you anymore. There's plenty of people who think it's funny. The point is you're no longer the target audience. And one of the things that I think about from a game design perspective, and the only reason I bring it up truly from a heart perspective, is why are you doing it? And, so many people, if you really, we do this I work in a library. I do reference interviews day in and day out. I got to get to the bottom of why are you doing this? And sometimes it's, I want to make a product. I want to sell something. And the answer is, what if that wasn't the goal? What if instead of a goal that is just the beginning of another journey that's going to be depressing and sad, we were to keep you on track? Because it is. I mean, starting a business is difficult for everybody. Becoming an entrepreneur
starting a business is exceptionally hard.
Yeah, so I'm not encouraging people to play a game that ends with and now begins your difficult journey. I think you should be focusing on what the win is, and the win is I'm going to
say what you're saying in a different way when I help people or I give some consulting or mentor people or whatever it is, any of that range.
Yeah, consulting.
I
consulting.
Do. The difference between mentorship and consulting is whether or not I get paid. So when you are making doing a small business and you are forging ahead and to keep people's morale up, because most of these things are about like a morale-based sort of thing, and let them understand when they're going to go do something hard or they're going to do something that is likely to fail or has, they're paying for their education. Like once upon a time, this is how people just flat out learned. And if you want to learn the hard way, we live in, I think before AI slop, there was a more genuine, you could go find anything, whatever it is. But now you need something to filter your filter. But that being said,
I love when people are like, I asked ChatGPT to make a game for me, and it did. And I'm like, was it fun? Because if it was fun, I'm okay with that. But was it original? Well, you don't know. That's the fun part about all these things. But go on. I know. Yeah. You do a roundtable with me and John. Anyway.
No, poor John. Don't pick on John. John's having a rough time. But that being said, the understanding that your time with the thing it has everything to do with where you are in your life and how that thing enters and how you're going to evolve with it, right? So, for example, why is Candyland fun for kids? And the quick answer is they're kids, and that's super dismissive. cognitively they don't understand consequences. Like, this is fun for somebody whose part of their brain hasn't developed yet enough, or they have not played it yet enough to understand outcomes. They don't understand that you could all like just deal out 5 cards, and the person who gets the red one wins. Like, and the difference between those two games statistically is exactly the same, but it's how much time invested in the journey you're willing to do. Like,
but the other part of it is that the illusion that I'm winning is something that is unusual for children. So the idea that if a child plays an adult, they can win. It's very exciting. If you come from an area where there's no power, chance is more power than not. So there's a reason why children's games are random, is because they can beat adults. And the other is,
and they can sit in the moment of suspense longer.
Exactly. But more importantly, there is ownership in their actions. Even though those actions are irrelevant, they get to, even though there's no decision making either, they actually get to follow directions and feel, well, that's where these things kind of lead up, right? And when we start talking about designing, part of it is, the first one is can you follow the directions, right? Can you make the decisions? Are those decisions relevant? Can you make those decisions? So, like, as you start building through,
can you illustrate, and in the case of Candyland, can you see your progress? Can you see the effect of your choices and your turn?
And so all of those things really, really go into the fact that the reason that parents like kids playing some of these games is not because it teaches them to win games, it's because it teaches them to follow directions. It teaches them to stay focused on a task. It teaches all of these other skills that, if you think about games as just winning, then you forget that that's not what games are. And what's even funner for me is, from a cultural perspective, it's only in this, modern age of gaming, which again begins in 95. It's only in this modern age of gaming. It does. It is only in this modern age.
Why did you pick 95?
It's all Catan.
Oh, you think Catan?
Catan's the door.
You think Catan's the door, and not the game that originated Catan, which is the original Civilization.
No, Catan's the door. It's not about the game. It's about the impact of the game on society. So at that point, Catan is, if you go through and you talk about the bells that can't be unrung, Catan is one of them. And that's why people get mad at things like Catan, or even things like Cards Against Humanity, because when time fades, as memories go on, we will always have we'll always have Monopoly, and we'll always have Catan, and we'll always have Cards Against Humanity. And everybody who cringes when I go, we'll always have Cards Against Humanity, there's nothing you can do about it. We live in that world. But what I'm saying is that.
But why don't we say we always have apples to apples? Because it's the same game.
But it hasn't had the cultural impact. That's the thing. That's what I'm talking about. So that's where we're talking about an industry perspective. But when we talk about like a cultural perspective, like if you look in the 1800s, which is why I like doing the history of games, for many, many years, games literally were all games of chance. That there were no strategies involved to a lot of gaming. Now, there were games of pure, everyone wants to think about the history of gaming is about chess and backgammon, and that's not true. Like, no offense, the culture of checkers and backgammon and chess do not lead into the board game industry in which we live. It's the other route. It's the stupid stuff. It's roulette. It's the random stuff. It's dice, and it's tops, and it's spinners, and it's stuff where people didn't do anything but have
That's
what
an
I call
interesting supposition.
pastimes.
Well, that's an interesting supposition. All right, so we have
pastimes. It's TV.
Okay, so where would you put Napoleonics in that spectrum?
See, war games don't count. See, war games never count, by the way. War games never count. Because war games don't count, because by the way, they do, in the sense of, you're talking about like how war games lead to TTRPG, which really is if you think about it, it's really a parallel track in terms of game designing, right? And in modern TTRPG ignores its history altogether and pretends that none of it has to do with simulation and game design, and goes it off into gamified narrative and storytelling, which is a whole different branch. It's almost like people have co-opted the history of TTRPG with, oh no, it was always about storytelling. it was never about storytelling. It was always about winning. And then all the geeks moved over here and all the soft people moved over here. And it became like two different areas. Anyway, but what I'm saying though is the Napoleonic stuff really does go back into simulation. And when we talk about it as true game study, but I'm talking about like the art of play, people needed to occupy their time. They did something communally. They sat around and played a game, even though the outcome was literally random. They still played it. And one of my favorite examples of this is if you look at the game of Goose.
All right.
Let me finish with the game of Goose, though. If you look at the game of Goose, which has no strategy whatsoever, adults played it with money, without money. That's how they spent their time. They didn't have TV.
All right. So, the one caveat that should really, 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 really be mentioned to your games of chance is betting is actually a skill. But
betting isn't always involved.
No, but I'm saying, like, in a lot of these instances that you were talking about, betting is its own skill, and that's how you get ahead. Like, it's harder in dice games than it is in like card games, especially when you're doing this thing. And then bluffing becomes a skill. Like betting and bluffing are both like
right. I mean,
skills.
You talk to anybody who plays backgammon. If you play backgammon without the doubling cube, like you're not really playing backgammon.
That's
like
right.
Backgammon. I mean, that's only a '70s thing, really. But in the '50s, people played backgammon. They weren't as crazy about the doubling cube. But once the doubling cube really became part of backgammon was a high stakes game. It was like, no, we're doing this. Are we doing this? I withdraw. Like people would literally stop playing the game. They would double it. They go, you win, and that was part of backgammon strategy. So you're absolutely right that we start. So that becomes again a track here, but think about
this is an interesting like rarely in the live do I feel like we should be diagramming the various branches.
We're not building a taxonomy.
It's exciting. I would like that level of like interest as we talk about and then culturally we have shifted or we assume everything that all right. So there's two different topics, and we're jump in this one because it's more in my brain right now. But that is, people make the assumption that how they are now is how things always were or should be. And the biggest example of this that I like is the Flintstones and the Jetsons, right? Like those were all throwbacks to like, let's make the like 50s white America is the standard for prehistory and future history simultaneously. Like, and
is the Flintstones prehistoric? Because some argue that the Flintstones takes place after the Jetsons, which is why they have the talking animals, the retro technology.
Oh yeah, that's better. The Flintstones being post-apocalyptic is way better. I love
Kazoo makes more sense,
I absolutely love the Flintstones
smoking commercials,
Like they have all this idea that they have television, they have these other things. Like, how does this all work? But
context, you're talking about is context, and this idea that every single game that we play exists from a context, and that when you're designing a game, you're designing a context.
How we are now is how it should be judged. For example, like I got to see this awesome thing about where femme falls into future fashion because I love that stuff. Conquest Princess is all about space fashion.
When you say where femme, you don't mean like werewolf femme.
No, I mean like androgyny to femme expressions of gender in fashion, because there is a point in time, and I'm gonna think you're gonna guess this. When did fashion stop being about class and start being about gender?
I was gonna say something about Rocky Horror, but I was gonna say it before you even asked the question.
I see you've met my.
But actually, what I'm laughing at is how many. There was a whole bunch of the who did it better, and it's always like the original. Like, stop it. No, but the
I answer the question because it's a really interesting contract for the idea of Like we always assume that our experience is how things always were, and that's not the case. And that's how absolutely like horrible for like a species that's going through technological evolution.
Do you mean like punk because you're working hard to make things look worn type stuff?
No, I love that.
Yeah, because there's a lot of like, dude, those pants were new. Like you had to tear those stockings. Like No. Yeah, okay, yeah.
I like that as an interesting thing, but there can be a strong argument that punk was countercultural because it asked, it pushed away gender expressions of fashion, right? It pushed it away.
Oh, grunge as well in some ways as well, if you want to.
Well, yeah, a little bit, but both of those being countercultural. But I'm talking historically speaking. When did fashion stop being about class and fashion start being about gender?
Oh, absolutely. So the Roaring Twenties is a direct relationship to the advent of the bicycle. So the advent of the bicycle changes everything. Not only is it on the back of playing cards because bicycles are cool, which is, by the way, why they're on the back of playing cards. But the bicycle, that's why they're back of playing cards. It was a fad. They put in bicycles and everything back then. But within 10 years of the mainstreaming of the bicycle, women wore between 10 and 20 pounds less clothing because you can't wear a hoop skirt and ride a bicycle. And from the moment you start dropping clothing because you need to ride a bicycle and because you need to do things, men stopped wearing hats because the cars had the lower ceilings in them than the carriages did. So all of a sudden, our desire to, be more practical with technology strips us from our clothing, and we just lose all morality. I mean, morals.
I love that. And that is a side jaunt. But my question still stands. You have not, like, you picked great moments in fashion and
Industrial Revolution.
Evolution.
Industrial Revolution is what I was going for. It's all about the Industrial Revolution. The materials are cheap and the technology makes us not want to wear as much. Both of those things, yeah.
We are going to be codified. I love the fact that you talk about that because the Industrial Revolution is when men's fashion gets codified, period, because it is the age of suits. You can see that transition in the 18th century, the founding fathers.
The ruffles. We just go
but there's still those dandy tight pants with the white stockings and all that shenanigans, which is a throwback. But
the wigs are just about
right. All right. So
that's different.
The actual time for this is the French Revolution codifies the difference between fashion being about class, because men and women, if you look at like paintings of like period paintings, like the amount of stuff that people are wearing is outlandish, and its impracticality, like, is part of its ostentatious, declaration that I'm better than you. I do not have to be practical because I am wealthy.
It's funny you say that, though. So revolution is a rejection of the impracticality of fashion. At the same time, without the revolution, we don't start seeing these oversized paintings like the Davids, which are painted purely to be in a museum. Art was always meant for like one person, but now art is being made for museums, but specifically for museums. So you're painting these oversized pieces that would not be able to go anywhere except the museum.
That's kind
of an interesting thing about where things go.
This is just for my own edification. Like, what is considered to be the first masterwork canvas? Like, I worked a year on just like I've gone to the Dali Museum, and he has 7 masterworks in that, like, whatever. It's fantastic.
That's I would say that's a misnomer, that time versus effort, because someone would argue that, like, so one of my favorite questions in the art world, and this is, by the way, a really interesting one. It's going to tie right back to what we do here.
This misnomer caught on, and I want to know when that misnomer is.
But the question is, when is a piece of art complete? When is it finished? And so in graduate school, we learned that a piece of art is complete. And I love this. My favorite line is when the artist crosses the threshold of the studio with it. So if it looks complete, so if the artist dies and it's still in the studio, just because it looks complete doesn't mean it is complete. When the artist takes it off the canvas and leaves with it, that's when you say that he's considered it complete because he's literally taken it out of the thing. And so when you look at something like the Mona Lisa, which Leonardo had with him until he died, there's arguments that the Mona Lisa may never have actually been complete. That moment never happened. That moment of we know the artist says it's complete because the artist took it off the threshold. That's where, Lucas screws it up for everybody because Lucas had that moment. Lucas, projected the film. Lucas says this movie is done. And then he's like, wait, I can go fuck with it. And we're like, no, you're not allowed to. Not because you don't own it anymore. It's because you already codified it. And in a world of codification, we should not be able to go back. We should be able to make versions. We should be able to do, different versions of it in an age of codification. But that's the weird thing about all of this is that when people, and I know we're not going to talk about She Shall Not Be Named, but one of the arguments but one of the arguments against, doing a remake is, why isn't the first one good enough? And the answer is, why do we still have live theater? Why do musicians still be able to play? Well, if the Beatles played that song, why do we have to play it again? And the answer is because we want to, because we want to do an interpretation. We want to hear it differently. We want to see if maybe somebody did do it better. That kind of thing is an interesting one. Maybe not for you, but for somebody else. So this idea of why did we make this game? Why am I making a game? If it's because I want to have made a game, boy, that is a bad reason. But if it's why do I make this game? It's because, I had this idea of going down this journey. And I think the play is going to be this way. And I think maybe my story is going to be this way, or I want it to look this way. I dreamt one night sitting around a table, and I was caught up in this narrative, and I was caught up in this mechanic, and I was caught up in this story, and I wanted to be there. I wanted to be in that world, trying to be the champion in that space. I had this dream, and I need to clarify it. That's why you make a game.
Yeah, no, it's an absolute great reason. And
then the other reason is garbage.
No, there can be other reasons. Like, if you want to put yourself in somebody else's shoes, like we have computer games becoming board games, becoming animated series, then becoming live action series, then becoming long form dramas. That then there's a cycle of these things. We have we have successful comedy movies becoming musicals, becoming back to movies. The
movie Dr. Strangelove.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Was based on a book called Red Alert that was very unsuccessful and was not funny at all. And then after Dr. Strangelove came out, the original author rewrote the book as Dr. Strangelove. So there's a book called Dr. Strangelove based in the movie, based in the book, and it's all about the same people.
No, the same person can also redigest things like Princess took me 9 years, and End of the Line, the new edition is fantastic, but it was 15 years in the coming, right? It was the things that I thought were important in game design in 2009, I was like, no, that's all wrong. That's crazy.
Listen,
this is the quintessential fun now.
Liz Maggie wrote the Landlord's Game first published it in 1904, and when Parker Brothers reissued it in 1935, it still didn't sell well. Right. Oh, wait, that's not your point, right? 30 for 30 years, no one played that game, but the derivative of it were played amazingly, and we're still playing it 100 years later. So this idea of working on something, but I think the blinders part's a big part. There's the idea of being driven by a vision, and there's also this idea about having blinders on where you won't, listen to them. And again, I'm very weary about playtesters. People forget that most playtesters, they're not altruistic. They're like, oh, you want me to be an asshole? I'd love to. And it's oh, geez, there's a mix.
Oh my gosh, Jared. Who hurt you? I am constantly reminded talking to others of the Twin Cities is blessed with environments where people want to lift each other up.
But there are people, when they play test will tell you exactly how to fix your game. But I didn't ask you that. I asked you what was broken.
I didn't ask you that.
Yeah, I didn't ask you that. And by the way, there's a great line for this. And the same thing goes with any sort, whether it's writing or another thing. If you ask somebody what's wrong with something, listen to what's wrong with it, but never let anyone tell you how to fix it.
All right, do you do this? Since we'll switch a little bit to method because you talked about playtesting a little bit. I get to a point in my designs where I can't see any farther until I see it get to the table and people interact with it. Like I will get stuck, and by that I mean I will go back into the loop from the beginning again because there's no like bedrock for me to plan the next thing. I'm like it's all like 18 trees. It could all be whatever it is. So I will make a version and. The more successful I am, the earlier I do this is, hey, let's do this and see how it breaks.
You just need one person or two people, and you say, listen, I don't want to play test the game with you. I want to watch it break in front of you. And I tell them that right off the bat. I've got this game. It's probably going to break in about 5 minutes.
I think that's still playtesting. I think that's
it's playtesting. But people think playtesting means that we're going to finish the game, and the answer is, oh no. Like we are going to. This is a rehearsal, and I am. And the thing about it is, so because I worked because my degree is in really choreography. I remember the days where I'm like, I know what we're going to do today. Like I want you to go from here to here to here to here to here, and then we get here and she does it, and I'm like, oh no, that's not what I want. And I'll go, here's what I want, and she'll write like 5 ways of doing it. And she'll iterate it for me and we'll do it. I go that way, then we'll add it. And we'll never get to where I thought we were going to go today, but I'm okay with that because we got somewhere. And everyone has to be very aware of what that level of playtesting is. And so and it's going to be a matter of all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play for probably 10 minutes. And then you're going to drink the coffee I'm buying you, or you're going to eat the food I prepared for you. And I'm going to go in the next room and come back with another set of rules. And we're going to start again. And what I love about this is sometimes I'm a real bastard. Sometimes I'll go, oh no, we're continuing from here with a new set of rules. And sometimes I go, no, we're starting over with a new set of rules. And so it depends on what type of playtest that is. But that level of iteration is nice because you just have hands around you. And my students loved that because they would be like, they'd show up an hour before class just because they knew I'd usually have something that I wanted to screw with them with.
One of the most in the zones, like playtest design things it was a few protospiels back. It's 2017. And we are doing Hedgehog Hop, and I had Logan, who was my community manager at the time, and then we had Mark. For the first time, he had done the project. I'm like, hey, I should really have somebody experience what people's feedback is for the art, because I am listening for different things. So, I've got the two of them in tow. And I think that weekend I did 29 run-throughs of Hedgehog Cop. Okay. What they were really surprised was that each one of those had a different set of rules.
Yeah, you're not playtesting. See, I don't like the word playtesting there because I really don't think it's playtesting. I really don't think it's playtesting.
Let's have the semantic discussion.
Yeah,
what word would help us teach others why this is an important step and where it falls?
It's real-time game design. It's real-time game design. It's because
there's so much stuff in there that I think you're right, but I think that is
you can't call it
it's
that.
A misnomer that adds a whole bunch of other things.
So what's fun for me though is that when I actually teach game design, a lot of times, so I believe that the best form of game design is iterative in the sense of, let's either find something that's broken, define how it's broken and fix it. Which is a really great one. We can do this with a lot of older games or games that don't hold up anymore. Games where you'd be like, that game doesn't match our cultural understanding. So how do we make it better? My favorite one that I've seen recently is watching people who have changed the rules on what's the one with the faces?
The Macarena.
The faces, not who's that? What I'm talking about. The one that was really racist, and then they had to fix it because it was all white people.
I get it.
Yeah. But they're the ones. I'm blanking on what it's called. Anyway, so what's funny?
It doesn't matter. They don't need any more press.
But it's
De Vere's Gen Con release from 2025.
No, it's not. It's not De Vere. No, this is from Mattel. This is.
Oh,
this is like a really old game where you pick who your character is, and there's 50 faces there, and then there's 50 faces on the other side, and you're like, does your guy wear glasses? Is it male? Is it female? I'm blanking on but yeah. Anyway, so the joke with that game is of course, and they've done it with other things where it's like you've got 50 appliances in front of you, and you pick one appliance, and then they go, does it use water? Does you that kind of thing? But the thing that are really interesting is that when people have played it more recently, they'll take the classic version of the game and they'll not ask what the person looks like at all. They'll go, "Are they vegan?" And so like you're trying to like use these stereotypical whatever. Did they look like they just came from yoga? Like, and it's really stupid because all of a sudden the game isn't a matter of choice. The game is a matter of this really stupid, like preconceived notion where you've taken this idea of, well, we have a game that's slightly racist and sexist because it's really what it is. Not because it's because of distribution. It doesn't have to be, but it is. But really it's about, we have a game about physical characteristics and all of a sudden we've turned it into a game about stereotypical attitudes. Like, would you call this one Karen? And I love the idea, but this idea of how you. So one of my revelations, and this is actually from when I was younger, before I knew I was doing game design, was when I think it was when my first PCs came out. I bought the Game of Life on a disc or something, and when I bought it, they had two versions of it. They had the classic version of it, and they had one that had modifications to it. And of course, I don't want to play the modification version. I want to play the classic version, and because I want to play the classic version of Life on the computer. And then it hit me: in the classic version of Life, you have two choices. That's it. There's very few branch points in the Game of Life. So once you get to the first branch, did you go to college or not? Almost the entire game, except for if you decide to speculate, almost the entire game is just boom, you won, boom, you lost. And that's why they had to make, because someone over there realized that they had to make the game. But the funny part is I was in my late teens by the time I realized that Life had no branch points, that it was really a page turner. And here's what's funny about it. There's nothing wrong with the page turner.
What? Roll
Never
this
thought of
back.
it.
Roll
Never
this
thought of it.
back, Jared.
Never thought of it. Never thought of it. I liked spinning. I like spinning the thing. I just, I like the three-dimensionality of it. It didn't occur to me that I was in a page turner game because I didn't have the vocabulary of a page turner game. And by the way, as much as people get like angry at page turners, we watch movies, we read books, they're paid. No. Even when we watch sports, page turning is a way we occupy our time. So the fact that we do page turning,
the entire
there's nothing wrong
genre of like solo RPGs or journaling RPGs are, these moments are going to happen, and your iterations through it have everything to do with your previous choices. But these events are still fixed in timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff. Like, these events are going to happen.
They're paid. And what's funny for me is I've been playing the Game of Thrones video game. And it's a lot of page turning. It's open world, by the way. It's an open world. It's a sandbox. And yet there's a lot of, and I laugh because I go, I really don't affect the story too much, but I'm advancing the story. And I know I'm advancing the story. Part of me is like, well, I did a walkthrough. But then, so like, this is the part where it gets difficult, is that when you start seeing the sausages being made, you know what goes inside a sausage. So that when you have the sausage in front of you, you're like, oh, great, what's in here? And I remember, this little joke about hot dogs are made of lips and assholes. But there's also, have you ever seen beef jerky snuff?
No.
There was a brand called Powdered Cow. So if you ever go to a gas station, you'll see what looks like a little hockey puck container with what's called, with all the various names for it. And it's like powdered beef jerky. And it's like, really tastes really good. And then one day I realized that beef jerky is made in these large sheets. And when they cut it up to put in the packages, they're basically eating beef jerky sawdust. And someone's like, if we put that in a hockey puck, we could sell it. Like, it's literally the waste. It's the discard from making the beef.
Yeah.
And once you see it, you're like, wow, this is pure profit. But it's not, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but you have to get over, just like if you are into what did a friend of mine tell me that was really funny? He was a movie producer.
All right. Before you go on, I want to back up a little bit before you go to your next stream, because you make a good point. If people want to get started with game design, one of the things that I ask them to do is, hey, have you made a variant or a new take on a game that you love? Like, what would adding your take on something do? Like, we do this with cooking and we have no problem.
What's the problem? I always go, what's the problem? Like, what are you trying to solve? What about the game isn't working?
You want experience doing the thing. You want, like, go for it. Like, make a variant for a game. It will teach you a lot of the things, but mostly if you like the process and the other steps are along the way.
But I want to go back to this thing about a problem though. Is that I'm somebody who's trying to evaluate. This is something that we often talk about. Is evaluation is really part of things. What are your metrics? Was your booth successful, and what does success look like?
Yeah.
So this idea of having a metric is not just I made a variant, but the idea that you actually have a goal with that variant. And so the way that if you can identify a problem in the game, a need that is not just your need,
it doesn't have to be a problem.
But a need is a problem. A need is something that requires a problem. A solution is attached to a problem. So I use the word problem in the sense that it's associated with a solution. So the idea became so a need. A need and a problem to me are the same thing, but not your need, the game's need. Like this game, I love the people out there who's like, this game needs a solo variant, or this game needs a 2-player mode, right? Those are really good observations because you can instantly say what doesn't work about the 3-player mode. The other day I picked up a game and I'm like, damn it, this isn't a solo variant. I'm like, doesn't have one yet. And this idea of, and I'm just for myself because I want to play it solo and I don't have friends, but this idea of looking at the
I'm
need,
offended. I thought we were friends.
You've never played a game with me. Anyway, I've even bought.
We've done demos. Do demos count?
We didn't really even do the full demo.
So that's a yes.
I filled out my backer kit for you. It's so funny because I'm laughing about the fact that you're the first game that I've kickstarted in like so long, and the Marsh Hollow's out, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it because I don't back Kickstarters. I'm sorry. By the way, I'm so tempted because every video I'm like, ooh. No. I
get to play an early TTS version. Like the physical version is way more impressive than the electronic version.
And what kills me though is like when I played, and this isn't me fishing by the way, but when I played, when you sent me the playtest version of the End of the Line, like I want a real version of it. Like I don't want a playtest version of it. Like it's like, oh, I'll send you an early copy. I've learned my lesson. I don't want an early copy. I want a production copy.
Oh my god, the art for the final art for End of the Line, the whole thing, it lives up to everything. And there's a reason why it's across so many T-shirts. It's over the one. All right, Jared.
But going back to solving the problem though is in all honesty, or going back to filling the need, is that you get to reflect on a win. Is you can ask yourself the question, there was this need. Did my variant, did it work? Did it work in the sense of, was it playable, but did it actually do what I intended it to do? And that has nothing to do with the methodology. It has nothing to do with the pieces, it has to do with art. It literally has to do with this. I identified a problem and I developed the solution, and I can sit back and I can analyze whether or not that was good or bad. And then I can go through and I can simplify it. And more importantly, the funny thing I can do is I can strip out the original IP, grab to more mechanics, and the next thing you know, I'm standing on my own shoulders, which is amazing.
Well, this is really good. We'll have a semantical discussion, you and I, about some of the things that problems you make very, very specific word choices that I think are loaded. May or may not.
Who's the big philosopher who talks about gaming? Not Kierkegaard. It was somebody else. Like one of the big philosophers talked about gaming, and I was like, according to so and so, and the talk was like, so and so wouldn't approve of the way you use words. It was like so true. Like it was like I was quoting a philosopher, but they were like, that philosopher was not an absolutist with terms the way you are, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's really good.
All right, what can people hope for to see from you next, Jared? Because we are in the wrap up.
Okay, so in the wrap up, right now, as I've not been buying too many games. If you've been watching, I still have been posting some of my. I've been doing some Goodwills, though it's interesting. I'm a few months behind in my Goodwill videos, and a few of them do have some purchases. I'm about to post some videos on all the games that didn't sell at the Board Game Flea Market, which I recorded them months ago, but I haven't had the heart to edit them because it's literally like 65 games in boxes in my garage that will not sell even for like $1.50. $1 a piece. But like I got these boxes with $20 for this box, and no one's nibbling. It's because used games just it's hard. But otherwise, it's the same as always. Right now, I've got a couple art projects coming up in the near future. I've got the big smell event coming up next. I'm doing the smell test that I'm working on. Did you see the smell test videos?
Yes.
So the smell test event is coming up first week in October. It's called the Great Smell Test and Aromatic Adventure, and that's going to be like a 2-hour event. And then I got nothing crazy going on. I'll tell you the one thing that if you follow my channel, you might get to see very soon is the puppies are due October 3rd. So they're going to be puppies, but people hate puppy videos. It's very weird.
What?
Like,
I don't think it's people. I think the algorithm has decided that you should not be doing these.
My food videos. You didn't even see my food videos, and
I don't
I know, and I just made ribs the other day.
And they don't show me your food videos, and they do not show me your puppy videos. Like, I got to go look.
I haven't posted a puppy video in a while, but anyway, so it's good stuff coming. But it's I'm just the funny thing about one of the things that I think is really important, if we can tie it back to all this, is that we all begin our journeys with this idea of who we are, forgetting that the person at the end of it.
I thought the journey, I think the best quote from this is Velvet Goldmine. We set out to change the world, but all we did was change ourselves. Like, I think
the problem is that when people start out down this road, they think that the end of the road is going to look very similar to the beginning of the road because they had a goal and objective. And I think if you look at like the way that we do things, if you spend enough time doing game design, you might move from game design to writing narrative, or from writing narrative to making music, or making music to making art. Like, this idea that you might change what you do is not failure. It's the evolution of who we are as creatives. And you're allowed to say, like, I had 113 Goodwills one year and I did 12 this year. I don't feel that it's failure. I feel that this isn't a Goodwill year for me. And this idea that we have so invested, especially online with our personas, these channels to be, this is what the channel's about. You know what the channel's about? It's about me.
Well, that's an interesting topic. Next time I take you to dinner, we'll talk about like how do you move on from success, right? And like sometimes people feel move
on from success.
Yeah, like
move on.
To your point, they're like, I did this thing. I did this thing. Now that's who I am. I'm like,
yeah. What have you done for me lately? And also, why does anybody care? That's the funny thing about all this is I love this idea of like, when I had tenure, and people are like, what does that mean? I go, outside of academia, nothing. Inside of academia, it's really petty. And I go, but outside of academia, nothing. And then when I gave it up, they're like, oh, is it sad? I'm like, you have no idea how sad. What did you lose? Nothing. But this idea of, what have you done lately? And there are times where you're at the top of your game. And, again, that's why I think that the most toxic social network is not Twitter, it's LinkedIn. Because all you see on LinkedIn is people posting all of their achievements.
Speaking of which, and she had a rant about this recently. Next week's guest is going to be Becky, and we're going to talk about like what she's been working on. And she had oh my God, the bots are going crazy on my LinkedIn kind of whole diatribe.
By the way, can we talk before we go, about Becky is a great example.
I love Becky. Only if we say positive things. I only want to say positive things.
I'm going to say amazing things. Rainbow Bunny Bop, right?
Right. Rainbow Bunny Bop. Yep.
Rainbow Bunny Bop. It doesn't have to be new. It has to be fun. And if you don't have a copy, you should get one. When did it come out? Who the fuck cares? If you don't have one, you need to get one. And that's what
the cult of the
about
new.
The community. The cult of the new is irrelevant. Take 7 years making your game. Make it something that's great and fun and playable. But the cult of the new, no one cares when your book came out. No one cares when the record came out. Just make this thing and shill it until everyone has a copy.
No, yeah, absolutely. All right, Jared, you were a wonderful guest. We went through a million topics. Everybody, you can expect, of course, another Wednesday Board Game Live next week with Becky. The board game design tip for the day is going on our other channel. If you like this content, you can also find it in its entirety now on our long-term channel. Using it posted.
Bits and pieces.
We were evolving. Let us evolve, Jared.
I post my crappy videos right next to my good ones. I am proud of the bad me as I am as a good me. It makes the good me look better.
Now, for shows coming up, you're gonna see me with Floodgate at PAX Unplugged. But before that, I'm going to be at the Pittsburgh Game Expo at the beginning.
When are you going to be in Pittsburgh?
First week in October.
Damn it! That's literally when the puppies are being born. Otherwise, I'd meet you in Pittsburgh.
Oh no!
Yeah. Like October 3rd is their birthday. Like it's when the puppies will come that weekend.
I will text you when that is.
I might be at CES in January in Vegas.
Oh, maybe. I'm excited about that. If you follow our project, we're going to have our updates on Princess because we have news in there. We have updates for End of the Line because we have news in there. And then we have, of course, Gangs and Puppies or Poop are going to be sent out to everybody coming soon. And
everybody should go out and order a copy of Marshmallow. My Kickstarter crack aside, that's just me and my Kickstarter versions.
I think the Twitter game community has been super supportive of that project. And like I said, I got to see it in person at Gen Con. It looks fantastic.
I am terrified because there's a couple of games. I don't like to talk about my development all the time. There's a couple of games I'm working on where if I do actually, even if I got signed, everyone's going to go, we're going to do a Kickstarter. Even major corporations would go, well, you've got a fan base to do a Kickstarter, and I'm going to be like, hi everybody, I need you to Kickstarter. It would be like people would be like, you two-faced son of a.
I often tell people that God made Kickstarter to test the faithful. It is really the case. All right, everybody.
How do you like my gum jabbar? Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I stick in my gum jabbar all over the place. All right, final thoughts, Jared, before we say goodbye.
You know, I don't want anyone to be disillusioned by any of the comments that we made. The reality of it is that just have fun. Don't set yourself up for failure is literally all I'm saying. And every hobby you make should be, and a hobby, it's a hobby until it's not. Every hobby you should make should not be a road to rising to your level of incompetence. That's business, that's work. Like you don't play guitar until somebody goes, well, you'll never be good enough to be in a band. Like that's not why we pick up the guitar. If someone goes, yeah, it turns out you're not Hendrix. Like we pick it up because we want to play and have a good time. And the same thing goes with game design. We should play until we have a good time. That's it.
Well, it's a very good Gen X reminder that when you hear a discussion between between Jared and myself, we are actually doing our version of remember you're fun, keep your heart in the right place, and you will go far. But we just say it really weird.
Everybody thinks that they have to do this for a living. I was watching a video earlier where somebody I follow was like, that's it, I quit my job, I'm a full-time influencer. And I was like, no! Like, you just sucked the fun out of your life, man. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm getting a heartbeat, but like, yeah.
But like, understanding the choices you're making, we'll talk about more of that. That could be another topic. All right, everybody.
Bye.
That's all for the Wednesday Board Game
I'm going to have to start doing a live
week.
where I just meet with live with Seppy every week. Bye.
That could be fun. All right. Bye, folks.